Hello, happy Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. I figured I'd just wear my costume as I'm going out in a little bit. But welcome to today's episode of the Reach Films podcast. My name's Jeff Hagan, and how are you all doing today? It's Halloween. I figured I'd do a little bit, like I said, an episode before we go out tonight. And I wanted to talk about what happened this week selling my Canon R6. Because it's a camera that I've really enjoyed. But it's definitely had its issues, and I ended up just deciding to sell it, and it really had nothing to do with the rumors that there's going to be an R6 Mark II coming out soon. I think that whatever that camera is, it'll be cool, but at least for what the R6 was after using it since the beginning of this year, it just turned out not to be the right camera for me, so I sold it. But first I want to check into the chat. How you all doing? Hey, my dude, what is going on? Welcome to the podcast. And so the picture that I have in the thumbnail is actually me right before I went to go sell the R6, pretty much saying goodbye to it. And I'm like, maybe I'll just take a picture of this for a second. And so what brought me to this whole decision was I was shooting a wedding a few weeks ago, and in that wedding, there was two of us shooting it. I was primarily on the Komodo. Spoke about it in a little bit in the last live stream, and my buddy was using the R6 and the 35mm 1.8 on a gimbal the whole time. Now, the goal of him using the R6 was just to get a bunch of 4K 60 B-roll throughout the wedding. And we got some really good footage from the R6, but as a lot of you can imagine where it's going, the thing just overheated on us like crazy. And up until now, for the most part, although I've shot 4K 60 for like wakeboarding and stuff like that, I was really using the camera more as a 24p camera. Whenever I used it professionally, like for corporate gigs, documentary work, the YouTube stuff I was doing, I was always shooting in 24p. But a few things started to happen in addition to that. When we were shooting the 4K 60, it overheated throughout the wedding a few times to the point where I had to switch to 1080p 60 just to get some shots. So that was not cool. The other thing was that, sorry, I got to bring that down. The other thing that was happening was the fact that I was using the R6 a lot for live streams. And by the way, a little bit of a tangent, but right now I'm using the Sony FX30 as my live stream camera. So this is a little new for me this time. I've never used this camera to live stream before, so figured this is the perfect time to experiment, because I do have 3 live streams for work tomorrow, which is part of the reason I actually moved this stream back to today. I just couldn't fit it in tomorrow. So this is the FX30, but anyways, so I was using the R6 as my live stream camera. I have my R7 over there, I'll grab it in a bit, but I was using the R6 over the R7 because I had some weird issues live streaming with the R7 as far as audio issues. So the R6 was my live streaming camera. And any live streams I would do, I would shoot, I would at least have the capture mode at 4K 24. So at least the image that was going to the HDMI was the best image possible, instead of it just being a 1080p image going out of the HDMI. And what would happen is when I would hit, like, you know, if the 50-minute mark, an hour mark on the live streams, the camera would start overheating. And I really liked using the R6 as a live stream camera, but it just was not practical. And I did a live stream, I think it was like a week and a half ago, and it was like the last straw. It overheated during, right before, I should say, the interview finished, and then I ended up having to quickly switch the camera from 4K 24 to 1080 24. And luckily, it did it quickly in the shoot, and I was able to cover it by switching to the other person's camera. So it was fine in the shoot. Nobody really noticed, but for like the last like 3 minutes, it was in 1080p. So it bothered me, and that was kind of like the last straw. And then now I have the Sony FX30, which I don't even need to be using a capture card. Right now, I'm actually using the USB-C out of the camera, and it's going directly into my 5K iMac. So I'm not even using a capture card right now. This is all directly from the camera, and that's why this is kind of like a little bit of an experiment today, just to see how everything looks. So yeah, the overheating was really the main reason I sold the R6. I thought it was a fantastic camera, but it just wasn't for all my uses. On top of that, like, you know, the 30-minute record limit was a problem. The R7 I had fixed that. The R7 also wasn't really overheating like ever. I haven't been able to get it to overheat. So now with the R7 and the FX30, it just didn't make sense anymore. So that is my story. That's why I sold the R6. There are rumors of the R6 Mark II coming out. Some people are saying November 2nd. And it'll be interesting to see what it ends up being. I'm not really going to go over the rumors unless you guys want to today, just because, I mean, they're all rumors. Nothing's confirmed. I'd rather just talk about the camera when it's confirmed and we see like what it has. So anyways, I'm going to go over to the comments now. Thank you guys for sitting through that. And again, this episode of the podcast is a live stream. So if you miss it after the fact, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch these live. So I've got Gnome over here, and he's asking, what do I think about the A7 IV? So the A7 IV, I've only used it a few times. I really like it, but I like it as a 24p camera. The 4K 60, it's not bad quality by any means, but if I'm going to go for a full frame camera, I would like to be able to shoot 4K 60 in full frame, and that's actually one of the main reasons I got the R6 at the time earlier this year, because there were rumors of the A7 IV coming out, but the rumors were that it cropped in 4K 60, and I liked that the R6 didn't, and that it was still downscaled from like 5 point whatever K. So that was my whole thing. But I think if you're a 24p shooter, the 24p on the A7R4, or sorry, the A7 IV, fantastic. I think it's better than like the A7S III and the FX3. The 24p on that camera is insane. So I do really like it if you're a 24p shooter. Crypto, you like the Canon look better? Hey, I didn't leave Canon, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if you guys have seen the video I put out today where I actually compared the R7 to the FX30, and I'm not. You know, you can't really see the grain shift as much right now. I'm also not shooting in log, but there was like a huge grain shift in the FX30 footage compared to the Canon footage. It's part of the reason I'm keeping the R7. Like the R7, one of the best value cameras for the money, and it has a stills mode, which the FX30 doesn't. But the FX30 is really nice. It's really good for what it is. My R6 overheats even when connected to an Atomos Ninja. Man, that stinks. That stinks, and I had a feeling that was going to happen. Guys, pardon me. I'm going to take this costume off now because I'm going to be wearing it all night tonight, so I don't want to have to wear it for the whole interview or for the whole podcast today. But yeah, dude, that stinks. You know, if they didn't have the issue shooting C-Log 3 over HDMI with the Canon R6, I actually would have kept it. But the fact that the R6 and the R5, when you're shooting in ProRes on the Atomos Ninja, it just has that yellow cast. It's just not for me. What's your personal camera setup for weddings? So this was the first large-scale wedding I've done on my own in a long time. And for this wedding, the way I shot it was I had a Komodo with the Surrey 35 anamorphic on an RS2 and a follow focus. And so that was one setup, and that was to get a lot of like, you know, cinematic looking gimbal shots. And then we also had a second camera, which was the R6 with a 35 millimeter 1.8 macro on a gimbal as well. And then I had the Canon R7, which up until the end of the night was basically like a stationary camera that we'd leave on the tripod. We used it to capture the ceremony. Not having a 30-minute limit and stuff like that helped. Moving forward, I don't know which is going to be between the R7 and my FX30. I don't know which one's going to be the gimbal camera and which one's going to be a stationary camera. If I would have to guess, I'd probably say the FX30 is going to become my second gimbal camera, or you know, just the primary gimbal camera on weddings that I don't shoot with the Komodo. Like the Komodo, me bringing that was specialty for this specific wedding of what we wanted, but I wouldn't bring the Komodo all the time. For most weddings, I do plan on using like the FX30 and the R7, and that's what we're rolling with, and maybe some like GoPros. And I have been using the DJI Mini 3. That has been a really great drone for the weddings because number one, image quality is fantastic. Number two, it's not very big. So, you know, you could fit it in your bag, and it doesn't take up like any room. And then number 3, it's much more quiet than other drones, so it's not like disturbing anybody when you're going out and flying, especially at some more intimate resorts. This resort that we shot at, I probably have a clip from that video. I could probably play it. But this resort we shot at, it was a big resort for Key Largo in the Florida Keys, but it was a relatively small resort. So filming with the drone, I didn't want to have to like make a huge impact. So the Mini 3 was perfect. Actually, so I have a clip from the wedding, and it has some of the drone footage. It actually has a little bit of everything. So I'll play that for you guys. Let me pull this real quick. I'll play that for you guys real quick. It's like 50 seconds. Here we go.
Close my eyes, you're looking back at me. As real as autumn air, I take and breathe. Try as you might, but you can't hide from me. I know all the beauty that you keep.
So there you go. That was just like a quick clip. That was like a clip from the wedding teaser. I didn't want to have to play the whole teaser here. But that used a little bit of everything. It was Mini 3 Pro. The one thing I didn't use because I don't have it in hand yet, but I do plan on bringing when I shoot these weddings in anamorphic on Komodo. I do have an anamorphic adapter for the DJI Mini 3 Pro coming in from Freewell. They sent it out for a review. Probably will get here either by the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So I'll plan on testing that and putting a review on that soon. Just so I can have actual anamorphic footage from the drone to mix with anamorphic footage on the ground. Because as you probably saw from this clip, I pretty much just blackbarred the anamorphic footage to kind of give it that CinemaScope aspect ratio so it would match the anamorphic footage that I shot on the ground. But I would like for it to be actually anamorphic. So that's my setup there. Cabra, I'm surprised you're not running the Canon webcam utility on OBS. So I've used the Canon utility. It actually does not work with the R7. It does work with the R6. However, I was not a fan of the image quality. And to be frank, my prior Sony cameras that I've used, I was not a fan of the image quality coming out of the USB. Traditionally, when I've shot with the Sony cameras, I would always have to use a capture card in order to get like decent footage out of the HDMI, you know, stuff that I could really use. And this was kind of a test right before I went on to live stream today, just to see kind of like how does it look on the FX30 coming out of the USB-C. I don't really think anyone's like used it yet for this. And you know, I think it looks fine. Does it look like fantastic? No, but I mean, this is a 720p image going to the computer, and it doesn't look like crushed garbage. I mean, just some of the Sony cameras I used before, when you used the USB-C, it just did not look cool. So yeah, that's my whole thing. On top of that, you know, like, you're getting the 4K downscaled image when you're using the capture card. So it's like, if you only need to, you know, output in 720p, that's fine. But if you're trying to get like at least a 1080 image and you're trying to get it like as fantastic, as sharp as possible, it's nice to have that 4K downscale. And that makes sense. Yep. So yeah, so that is kind of the whole shtick for today. I even got this LaCroix over here, and I forgot to pop it. But that's kind of what was on the agenda. If you guys have any questions on upcoming videos, the FX30, like I said, I did just put out a video today, and I wanted to space actually this live stream out and do it tomorrow. But I have so many live streams tomorrow, it just like doesn't make sense. By the time I'm done, and by the time I'm done producing them, it's like I don't want to have to get on a live stream. So I figured I would, you know, talk about this with y'all today, because I do like the R6. It was a great camera. It introduced me to the actual Canon RF mirrorless ecosystem. It was my first actual Canon RF camera outside of having the Komodo. So it kind of prepped me for the R7 when I got it. But it's crazy, you know, like I fell in love with the R7, especially because most of my lenses are also Super 35. The only full frame glass I have, I've got like a 70 to 200. I ended up having to buy the Sigma 24 to 70 art for the EF mount so I can have a full frame lens. And, you know, the RF glass that I had, the 16 mil and the 35, and they're okay. But like, it was nothing crazy, nothing as good as, I love the Sigma 18 to 35. That's what we're filming on right now. The Sigma 50 to 100, fantastic lens. Use it for a lot of dock work. I would like to be able to use those, and that's the beauty of the R7 and the FX30. I can use those lenses to the best of their ability. We're on the R6. I guess another reason I got rid of it, it would force you to film in crop mode. And the crop mode on that camera for video was okay. You know, I feel like the image we got was like the webcam image I'm getting here. You know, it was okay, but it's nothing that you're going to go like write home about. But for this live stream, it's fine. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today. Quick little stream about the R6. If you're here, you're around on Friday, I have Josh Satin coming on the podcast. We've been talking a lot lately, especially about the FX30. And he found out some interesting stuff about the FX30, about its higher ISO. You know, I don't know if just the FX30 has two base ISOs because it's a tool gain sensor. It's got 800, 2500. And when he was shooting at 2500, the grain, as far as how much grain you're getting in the image, was just as much as like what you get on the R7. And in today's video, when I put that out, I showed the same, or the test that I did about that, and the grain on 2500 on the FX30 was just as much grain as I would get in the R7, which is not a dual gain sensor on the R7. So you would think that there would be less noise at 2500 on the FX30 when you're comparing it to the R7. So it was an interesting discovery that he made. And so on Friday, you know, we both would have had the camera for a little over a week. So we're going to kind of discuss it, get into it, talk about his findings about using the FX30 for the first week. I'm going to talk about my first impressions because I feel like I haven't had the camera long enough to really tell you all how I feel about it. I mean, I've had it just shy of a week now, and I've only used it on really like one shoot. That was it. So I have a shoot tomorrow. I'm using it for live streaming all day tomorrow. So I'll have and I have a shoot on Thursday as well. So by Friday, you know, I'll have a lot more experience with it to kind of let you all know what I think about it, especially compared to, you know, the R7 and even the other crop sensor camera. I have the Komodo, even though it's way above kind of like the shots for this. Could you record a BTS of your wedding day? Yeah. Absolutely I could. For this one that I just did, I don't really have any BTS other than like what may have been captured by the other camera and me capturing of my buddy who was shooting on the other camera. But absolutely, I would love to do a wedding BTS day. Might have missed it. Are you looking forward to the R6 Mark II? So, okay, so we can talk about it if you want. I didn't really discuss it much just because all we know right now are the rumors of the R6 Mark II, and that's what I was saying. I didn't sell my camera based on the rumors. I sold it based on my use of it. If the rumors are true and this R6 Mark II ends up being the same sensor as the R3, which essentially will really only mean that it has much better dynamic range than what the current R6 is, then yeah, I think it will make a really great camera, because then at that point, dynamic range-wise, it would be better than an R5 or an R5C, but not feature-wise. You know, those cameras have a lot more features than the R6 Mark II would have. But, you know, we'll see. I don't know if that's true or not. It like kind of makes sense that they could. I can kind of see them giving a lot of the upgrades to the R6 Mark II that like the R7 had, with like the smart hot shoe on the top, having the slightly better autofocusing system. So we'll see. But, you know, slightly upping it to 24 megapixels doesn't really do it much for me. I mean, like, as far as would it make me want to go out and buy it. But it'll be interesting to see what the R6 Mark II ends up being. And, you know, we'll see. I don't know if I'll actually pick one up like I did with the FX30, just because I knew what I'd be using this for. But you never know. we'll have to see what it is, but thank you for that. Well, all right, everybody. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up right here. If you guys don't have any questions or any more questions, thank you all for joining me live today. Like I said, end of this week, Friday, I scheduled it, so you should see the live stream coming up. I'll be talking with Josh Satin all about the FX30, and he did get a new camera that I don't know if he wants to talk about yet, so we'll see if he wants to talk about it then. So as always, everybody, thank you for joining me. If you're watching this video after we were live, make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can see when we do go live to do these live streams. I plan on doing them at least once a week, at least for the rest of the year, because I'll always have a free day. If you guys have any specific days where you're like, hey, it'd be cool if you could do it this day, let me know in the comments too. I don't really have any day planned just because it's like shoots are so jumbled throughout the week. There's no like one day that I can do every week, but I'll try to make it happen. So again, thank you everybody. Until next time, I will see y'all in the next video.